Louise Bedford here, your host of the Talking Trading podcast. This is how traders excel. I want to start out by saying that for some people, they will be all over this topic, but for some people, it will be a complete introduction. It is fine if it's an introduction, and I know you're going to get a lot out of it, regardless of which end of the spectrum you happen to be on. I am talking Stoicism and trading. Now, a few years ago, one of my friends, Eric Smolinski, came onto the show. He happened to have a tattoo on his chest of my favorite saying in the entire world by Ovid, who was a Stoic philosopher. Someday this pain will be useful to you. My goodness, it is such a classic concept. And as a result, I have been looking, scouring, hoping somebody would come into my midst with a Stoicism and trading background. And bang, here we go, introducing Mr. Jacob Holm. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Louise. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to speak with you. So thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely. Look, I want to tell everybody a little bit about your background. I know that not only are you involved in the stock market and you're focusing mainly on the FX market, but also you are a mindset mentor, which is just terrific. This trading psychology game is such a big area. So I want everybody listening to you to apply the things that you're saying in relation to the Stoic philosophers into their own life, not just with trading, but in every area of their life. Now, I know that you have been involved in the markets for quite a long time. My goodness, more than 20 years. And you've been running your first stock investment when you were 14. Is that right? You were 14.
That's true.
Oh,
That's true. I have to admit, though, I wasn't buying the stock myself. I actually got the stock from my mom and dad. They bought it for me because, of course, I couldn't buy it at that age. But I actually got my first stock when I was 14 years old. And I remember it very vividly because I was so fascinated by this one stock I had, and it was in the local bank. And I started to read the local newspaper just to see the quotes of the bank and how it was doing. And I was so excited about it. Long story short, what happened was that a few years later, because management had cooked the books, the bank went bankrupt, and I lost all the money that I have gained in those years, which was quite a lot because it went well for the bank, right? But it was on a very, very fragile foundation. So that's how it all started more than 20 years ago.
That is certainly an aspect there that I'm sure would have inspired you to look at Stoicism. Firstly, what is Stoicism? Perhaps you can describe this for everybody listening.
Absolutely. And I want to try to make it simple because for some people, Stoicism sounds like something very old and, something that's just put away, but it's actually not. It is old, but it's still very applicable today. But basically, Stoicism is a philosophy of life. So basically, it was some guys back then, more than 2,000 years ago, who had a specific philosophy of how you get best out of your life. So basically, it's a strategy for attaining your grand goal in life. And whatever that goal is, it's up to you. But basically, it's how do I get the best and the most out of the short life I have here today.
I like that. The other aspect I feel it encompasses is taking responsibility for your own actions. And that is such a proponent of trading success, being able to call it and say, okay, I am responsible for my profits, but I'm responsible for my losses as well. Is that something that you've been able to apply?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was also part of Stoicism. Take responsibility for your own actions, to be responsible, but also to get a meaningful and fulfilling existence while you're here.
I love it. And there's a quote from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's another quote that I think is directly applicable here. When I mentioned to my daughter that I was going to be speaking with you, because my daughter knows that I'm very into Stoicism, she said, well, weren't they just people that their ideas are now out of date? Now, she used a nice little concept here, the appeal of antiquity. And she said, be careful that just because it's old, that you don't fall into the guise of trusting it completely. What are your thoughts on that?
I have been studying a lot of Stoicism, and I totally get the point. The more I studied Stoicism, the more I read into it, the more I really dug deep, the more I saw it applied to my life. The more I saw I could use it in my life outside trading and investing, but even so, also the more in my trading and investing as well. And then when I first started to actually not just read about it, but actually apply all the exercises and the mindset, the philosophy they have, it was just so practical that I could see, and it helped in my everyday life, inside trading, outside trading. So I can just say from my own experience, I can see it has taken me from point A to point B. So it has actually, in fact, helped me, and it has helped a lot of my other trader friends who have kind of like help with this, and the people I've mentored in the same philosophy. So I can just see that it has actually impacted me and people I know.
And how has it helped?
So basically, to go back to what you spoke about a few minutes ago about Marcus Aurelius's quote, the first place people can start, if you get a good small exercise here for your listeners, one way it can help you a lot is it sounds very obvious, but it's so powerful. Sit down on a piece of paper divided into two. On the one hand side, you put down the things that you are fully in control of. On the other side, put down the things that you're absolutely not in control of. And then you'll first of all see that it's very few things that you're in control of and a lot of things that you're not in control of. When you already have this awareness and know this, then something clicks in a good way in your head, and all the frustrations that you had earlier, all the negative emotions and so on, they fade away because you see, well, I don't have control that I'm late in traffic today because there's so much traffic. So why should I be sad or mad or frustrated that I'm getting a little bit late for this meeting? I can't control it. Okay. What can I control? Well, I can control that the actions I take. Okay. So I take my phone and call the person I'm having a meeting with saying I'm 10 minutes late. I have control over that, and so on. And if you should put it into the market, do I have control over whether this trade will become a winner or a loser? Absolutely not. I do have control over that back-tested plan that I had prepared mentally before I started trading. I executed my entry, and I put in my stop loss. Those things I have control over, but whether it will be a winner or a loser, I don't have control over. And okay, you will still have maybe a little bit of a sting when you lose, right? That's totally natural. We are humans, but it will take so much of the negative emotions away because you're already in that mindset.
Mm. And what you're saying here, it does remind me of the system versus outcome concept. We can control our system, our trading system, our entry, our exit, our position sizing that we should have in our trading plan, but we can't actually control that outcome, what happens after we put that money in the market. We just have the ability to continue controlling those things that we can control, and the things that we can't, we just have to adapt to. So what you're saying does resonate. Absolutely.
Yeah. And when I say it to many listeners, it probably sounds very, I know what I have control on, I don't know. But the fact when you're then sitting down and trading and get frustrated by a loss just shows that, including myself, when I wasn't totally aware of this, it just shows that, yeah, we might know it on a like superficial level, but we haven't really accepted it if we still get frustrated by trades. So even though that we know it, we have heard it before, we haven't really embraced it. We still get frustrated and angry.
Mm, that detachment that we're seeking so that we can just look after those inputs and not worry about the outcome. I think that's definitely the area that we should all be aiming for. And consistency. Yeah, consistency is absolutely the key. And I wonder as well whether some of those aspects that you were talking about, aspects that really have been with people from the very, very beginning. So we're not talking about sophisticated concepts. We're almost talking about things that are deep within us as an animal. So
Almost, yeah.
yeah. I was talking with Luke Mathers, who we discuss a lot about habits as traders, and he was saying that in the brain, that central part of the brain is the limbic system, is like buried deep, and that's the very primitive part. And then wrapping around that is the more modern part of our brain, the cortex and the prefrontal cortex in particular, and trying to get those two areas to talk to each other. It's often a good thing that we're trying to become sophisticated. So it does sound a similar concept to what you're saying.
It's very true. And if I don't know if you have, like people have read this book. There is a book by Dr. Steve Peters where he speaks about you have a monkey mind. And this monkey mind is, as you say, it's like the old reptile brain, right? And this part of your brain is, I think he says it's 5 to 10 times stronger than your neocortex, right? The brain that you have, which is logical and rational. So as you said, there's no reason to fight this brain. You cannot fight it because it's so much stronger than you. What you have to do is you have to learn to be aware about it and then manage it. And it's exactly the same that we do in Stoicism. We become aware of how we act and respond normally, and then we take action based on that and try to improve from there.
Mm. What are some of the other principles that we can learn from Stoicism that we can apply to trading?
So there are so many principles, but one I really enjoy as well is what's called emotionless, and it basically means love or faith. So if we should say it like in plain English, it'll be love whatever you're given, right? No matter if it's a loss or win, rainy weather, sunny weather, death, life, whatever. Love whatever you're given, because when you have accepted what you get already up front, then you can't be afraid about it. You can't be frustrated about it. And now we are speaking about quotes earlier. There's a very, very powerful quote from Pictetus that I want to tell, and then people can reflect a little bit on it. So he is saying, don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. So that quote was so powerful for me because I was always, before I really embraced Stoicism, I was like, I want things to be that way, or I want this trade to be that way, or I want my investment to go that way. Instead of just saying, okay, I've done all my prep work, done what I could now. Whatever happens now is out of my control. So I would embrace whatever comes to me, because then I have already won, right? No matter if it's a win or a loss. And that ties into another principle for the Stoics, which is always learning and adapting. And if you can always learn and adapt to whatever the market throws at you, then you will, no matter if it's a win or loss, you will always win because you're growing and you're learning. If you see things like something you can grow from or learn from, then it will be a win no matter what. So how can you be frustrated or negative because you have actually grown and learned, right?
And you have described a growth mindset. Carol Dweck came up with the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset concept. And as a trader, we really do need to have that growth mindset. It does influence so much of what we do. And if you have a fixed mindset, it really means that you don't think you can continue to flourish. You are as good as you're ever going to be right now. So I do think we need to have some level of optimism as traders to be able to really, harness that. Now,
big recommendation for that book for your listeners. It's a great book, and everybody should, all traders should read it because it's just a really, really, really great book.
It is a winner. I was talking with my friend Josephine, who's done my mentor program just before this call, and she actually said something to me, and I thought, I'm going to have to ask you your thoughts. That word stoic in our culture seems to have been a different meaning compared to the way that you and I are talking about Stoicism. So when we're saying someone is stoic, it's almost like, they're hard on the outside and they're taking it on the chin and they're going to turn the other cheek and they're being really strong. But what we're talking about isn't that at all, is it?
Yep.
What would you say would be the differences between the way people think of being stoic compared to Stoicism?
So there's a big misconception about what Stoics are and what Stoicism is. Because as you said, somebody might think of it as people with a upper lip, right? Or being reserved or not having fun or stuff like that. But when you really read into the early Stoics, it wasn't at all like that. They weren't afraid of having fun. They weren't afraid of enjoying the life. They weren't afraid of having a good life, because that's in fact the whole purpose of Stoicism, right? Where the difference comes in, where people might have got it a little bit wrong, is that Stoics said, just to put it very simply, right? They said, yes, definitely have fun, really enjoy what you do, but comes the but. You should never ever put your happiness or your joy or your, more important, your tranquility, your equanimity into things, right? So you should be aware of that no matter what it is, if it's your car, not in that time. Today, to put it into modern perspective, if it's your car, if it's your computer, if it's your phone, even if it's your wife or your husband, they can be gone tomorrow. They can be gone an hour from now. So therefore, yes, enjoy it right now in the present, but be aware that you are not depending, like your happiness and your equanimity is not depending on it because gone tomorrow. And in that way, they said, yes, enjoy it now, but don't be depending on it. And then you can actually phrase it in a way that, well, for me, it was the same. And that was also the meaning of the Stoics. Well, when I actually see that, well, my mom can be gone tomorrow, my sister can be gone tomorrow, my computer can be dead in an hour, then I actually appreciate things much more right now. I appreciate my family much more right now. I appreciate that I can sit here and speak with you a lot right now, because maybe tomorrow I can't. It sounds negative, but it isn't. I'm a much more grateful person after I applied Stoic concepts and philosophy. I hope that makes sense.
It absolutely does. And it's a way to combat that toxic positivity that we seem to have in our society today, where unless you are up, everybody goes, wow, you're not very up, are you? You're really quite somber. But actually, the Stoics are teaching us to have that balanced view, to appreciate the things that we have in life right now. I remember listening to Dr. Laurie Santos from the Happiness Lab, and she said, imagine that the hug that you're going to give your children will be the last hug you ever get to give them.
Yep,
Oh,
exactly.
you don't
It's,
release
it's
first.
no, people when they hear it, when I say it as well, I use another example when I speak also with my trading buddies about it. So imagine when you give your kid, girl or boy, the goodbye kiss this morning, be the last kiss. It sounds very hard, but imagine this, the dad or the mom who thinks about this in the morning compared to the dad or the mom who doesn't think about it. Who of these parents will appreciate their kids the most? I believe it's the parent who thinks in this way that it might be the last. They'll be much more present when they're together with their kids. You can also use your husband or your wife or whoever it is, right? But it just gives you so much more gratitude in life, and for me, joy and happiness as well.
I love that. What other
Yeah.
principles can we use from the Stoic side of life to apply to other areas of our lives?
Yeah. So on top of, I think one of the highest things we can do is, of course, become joyful and happy and grateful, right? Another thing that has really helped me, and it goes in the same direction, it makes you more appreciative or polite, but it's something you can also, because I also want to try to relate it to trading and investing a little, right? It's looking at things from a higher perspective. So not higher in like a Harry Fairy way, but just looking from yourself from the outside. For instance, let's say today, to give an example, let's say today I had a loss on one or two trades, right? Or my investment just went out in the water or whatnot. And then I think to myself, why did I lose X, Y, Z money today? Or poor me, or it's so sad for me, or this investment. Instead of saying, okay, I'm actually super grateful that I can sit here and trade today. Just like it's my passion. I'm doing what I love. And today there'll be 5 more opportunities. I can, I still got my account. I still got my trading account. I got a roof over my head, right? And then looking at it from a broader perspective, you will say to yourself, okay, there's actually people out in the world who don't even have the opportunity I have. They don't even have the opportunity to sit in front of a computer, do what they actually wanted to do, but I have that opportunity. So Jacob, just stop complaining. It doesn't help anything. It's a waste of my time. and my energy. And when I also have this narrow set mindset, I don't see the next opportunity coming as well. So that's another concept I really like as well, a principle. Look at
Yeah, I
things from a
like
broader
that.
perspective.
That makes me think as well that perhaps these principles are all overcoming the hedonic treadmill. So we're all on a hedonic treadmill where we're
Yeah,
chasing happiness, and sometimes even when we do achieve the thing that we thought we wanted to achieve, we get a buzz, but we adapt. So that becomes the new baseline, and we chase a higher level of happiness after
yeah.
that. But what you're suggesting is that there are principles that can keep you humble, in balance, admiring people, but not to the point where you're hero worshipping them, and allowing yourself to feel grateful for everything that you have, even when things aren't quite going well. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about hedonic adaptation.
It's a great question and something I have really reflected on myself based on the Stoic teaching. So thanks for that question. There's a really, as actually another, not a principle, but a really, really good exercise the Stoics use that you can use to counteract the hedonic treadmill. And it's an exercise I've used a lot myself, still use to this day. And one I teach also my trading buddies and, the people I help as well. It's called, to use the English word, it's called negative visualization. And what you do, and again, it sounds like the Stoics are very pessimistic, right? But they are not. They are actually getting more happy and more grateful by doing it. Basically, what it is, to put it very simply, they sit down and then they reflect upon. Let's say you sit down this morning, you reflect upon, okay, I'm going to trade today. What can happen? So what many people do, which is also a good thing to do, I also do that, is like positive visualization. They see how the trade will go in the right direction. They see how they do it correctly, and see, profit target hit and so on. But what the Stoics will also do is like they'll sit down and say, okay, I could lose my full account if I don't put in my stop loss. I could lose 5 trades in a row just because that's how the market acts. I could become frustrated because I get a call from my girlfriend or my wife and she tells me I need to go and clean up this and that. So I lose my focus, right? And in those cases, what do I do? Okay, then I plan to do X, Y, Z. And then that's end of negative visualization. And because you have prepared for it when it actually happens, and you have a plan for what you'll do when it happens, you won't get totally negative. You won't get a lot of negative emotions. You will still have a sting, of course, as I said earlier, you're human, but it will not affect you anyway as much. So in that case, in terms of hedonic treadmill, where you are also, it's more like, well, when you get that nice car you wish for, then you want the next higher car, right? And when you get that, you get tired of it after 2 weeks, and then you want the Lambo and so on. But as I said earlier, with the Stoics, they said you should never be attached to things because they can go on tomorrow, and something can happen with that thing. It can break. And when you have this negative visualization that your Lambo can be broke tomorrow, right? Then you don't really never get to the point of the hedonic treadmill because you don't aspire to have the next thing always, right? So
That
yeah,
is good. I'm liking that a lot. Jacob, you are just a pleasure to talk with. Tell me more about how people can get in touch with you and what people's next step should be.
well, first of all, I'll say the next step should be, if you haven't done already, find a really, really good way to work on your mindset in relation to, of course, your life and trading and investing. Because what changed the game for me, what transformed me from being frustrated and very negative emotions trader to actually finding success and consistency in the market, was that I changed my mindset. So, and I would love to connect with people. If they want to join, please connect with me. I'm on most social platforms, but I would love them to come and join my Facebook community. I think they can find the link in the show notes, and in there they can get, I've written a book, so they can get an ebook, so they can get a free ebook about Stoicism and trading, how they can apply directly to the trading. And as an extra little thing, just because I want to give something extra for your listeners, right now I'm about to launch a very, very hands-on practical course, all video lessons with practical exercises on Stoicism, how you can use it in your trading. So come and join me in Facebook, connect me, say, hey, I'm one of the Louise's friends. can I get the discount on that course? And I'll give your listeners a 50% discount on the course for the first 20 listeners who contact.
Oh, that is magic, Jacob. That is so very, very generous. So for everybody listening, if you're not watching the video on youtube.com/trading game, and if you're not following along on talkingtrading.com.au so that you can see the show notes, Jacob's Facebook page is facebook.com/mindful market mastery. And the group that you can get involved with on Facebook is facebook.com/groups/mindful trading minds. So it's mindful trading minds. And really, Jacob, that is fascinating. I have literally been hanging off your every word. Love Stoicism. Looking forward to exploring your methods and your views about Stoicism and trading a lot more into the future. Any parting words for our listeners?
I would just say a pleasure to speak with you, Louise. I hope your listeners enjoyed listening to the conversation as well. I just love to connect with like-minded people like you and your listeners. And if they want to connect with me, I'm more than happy. Just come to my group. I want to connect with like-minded people and service them, be of help, and exchange good ideas and value for each other. So come and join me and have a good conversation.
Thanks so much for your time, Jacob.
Thank you very much, Louise, for having me on. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for getting the opportunity here today. So keep up the good work. You're giving so much back to the community. Just keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. Bye for now.
Bye.